What's up, party people? I'm John McNeil, and this is Unpeeled. Today I'm joined by
Benjamin Doerksen.
And Benjamin, if you were to describe your music to the fine people at home, how would you describe it in your own words?
I mean, that's such a good question.
It's generic, but
I think it's an important question. Yeah. Well, I think
like hearing what an artist thinks of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what I do is rooted in folk music, but I'm always reticent to use that word because I think it gives inaccurate preconceived notions. So, yeah, what I do is a singer-songwriter, but what I try to do is evoke emotion first and foremost, and so I'm a lyric-forward individual, but I'm a strong believer that songs can both be catchy and lyrically self-aware.
There you go.
Absolutely.
I think you've rehearsed this a couple
Not
times.
even a little bit.
No, because it sounds like you've done this at least 80 times.
I mean, I wish that were the case. I wish I was an interview veteran.
You sound like it. Like you're calm, relaxed.
Absolutely. Well, we're
just the swagger.
We're just chatting music, right?
Yeah, we are.
And so what I try to do is I try to, as best I can with the tools available to me, evoke what I think are important emotions in my audience, and I try to make it an event that is not a dichotomous performer-audience separation. I try to include as best I can the people who are hearing my music, and if they weren't there, then it wouldn't exist. So that's what I do.
Let's back it up a bit, because you got ahead of me. Dichotomous.
Right.
People at home, our audience probably does not understand what that word means.
Dichotomous, right.
Because I haven't heard it. I'm not a journalist. I am an improviser.
Right.
Yeah. So
right.
Explain it to me. I'm not too afraid to say I don't know something.
No, absolutely. So when I say dichotomous, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I try to, as best I can, break down the division between listener and performer, and I try to make it a whole event in which.
Do you ever go in the crowd and sit on
absolutely,
people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, sit on people.
You
know, as long as it's consensual, I'll sit on a lap for sure.
Sitting.
For sure. Is
there special establishments for that type?
I mean, you got to read the room,
yeah.
Right? There certainly can't just sit on anybody.
No,
that's
especially you're 6'5".
No, I'm not a light person.
No,
I'm not a light person. So it's more about interaction than it is sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to, as best I can, really remove that boundary of I'm here to do this, you're here to do this. We're actually all here. We're all seeking the same thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We all want that actualization, that positivity, that interaction. And so that's, I mean, again, I use the tools that I can, be it my guitar, my lyrics. I just think, I think it's important to share the experience versus me presenting some contrived self-perception of what I think music or performance should be, right?
Yeah. So in your typical writing, do you typically start with the emotion and then see if it goes through guitar or if it goes through lyrics?
That's a really good question. So usually I'm writing music and I'm writing lyrics separately, and then what ends up happening is by luck mostly.
Pairing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a pairing there. And then once I have some lyrics that I think reasonably pair well with some kind of music I've been writing, and then once those lyrics,
then you can deconstruct it and fit it to mold it to
exactly, yeah.
Is there anything that's ever come where it just completely molded together? Like it was like you're writing the guitar and you had the lyrics already percolating?
Yeah. Sometimes the music definitely evokes the content, but a lot of the time it's an amalgamation. I find the right words that work with the right music, and then that combination, that it becomes larger than the sum of its parts, right? And all of a sudden you realize the kind of emotion you're trying to evoke, which pretty much, in my experience, writes the rest of the song for you, right? So and I try to harness that as best I can. I try to lean into those pairings, those amalgamations, those collisions of lyric and music that really all of a sudden seem like at least an emotional enough experience that it breaks down that that aforementioned dichotomy, if you will.
So with the dichotomy, do you prefer to play with a band like you did tonight, or as a single artist? What breaks down that door quicker?
That's a really good question. It usually depends on the room. I love a house show because of how immediately intimate that experience can be. That being said,
and there's more of that these days.
There's more and more. I think that's a really important movement. I think that supporting those kinds of experiences, I think that supporting those kinds of communities, that really facilitates creative growth. That being said, I do think that sort of release the preciousness of your material and you allow musicians to come in and contribute their perceptions. I always like to say that just because I wrote the words doesn't mean I know what's best, right? And so you have vocalists, you have instrumentalists come in, and they can really make the product larger than the sum of its parts, especially if you have provided a reasonable collision of lyrics and music that are already evoking that experience in those artists, right? Yep. And then they take that to the next level, and because they're already within that emotion, the contribution, I mean, I'd always rather be on stage with my friends. I feel like that just makes a better time, if anything.
For sure. It's always good too when something happens out there, you can turn to someone and be like, "Did you see that?"
Yeah, it's like that was neat.
When you're by yourself, you're like, "Damn it!" Like, how do I talk about this?
I know, it's just like, I do enough overthinking on my own that I would much rather experience a sort of like creative output.
Yeah.
And again, when it's about creating inclusive experience, the more people, the better, in my experience. Absolutely. Absolutely.
If people are going to find you online, where are they going? Where are you most active?
Right, absolutely.
Where are they going to chat with you?
So Instagram, Facebook, just Benjamin Doerksen, you can find me. I'm very talkative, I'm very friendly.
Articulate too?
Well, I do what I can, right? Well, I write songs. I gotta be.
Wordsmith.
I gotta be. That's the game, right?
It's your profession.
That's it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Hey,
it was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
You too.
Cheers.
Peace out, party people.